Hi, my name is Sydney, and this is my vision statement for working in a Montessori school as an educator. When it comes to curriculum in schools, there is an important term titled hidden curriculum. This refers to the unwritten, unofficial, and often unintended lessons, values, and perspectives that students learn in school. Within my classroom, I have many hopes for different hidden curriculums, but the main one is teaching students how to be respectful towards one another. If I teach all of my students to be respectful towards one another, it will create a more positive learning environment for all students, but also for me. I believe that if students are taught the golden rule at an early age, they will carry it with them throughout their lives. A very important part of being a teacher besides teaching is how you set your classroom up, as this can make or break whether your students want to be in the classroom in the first place. I would love to be a Montessori teacher, which is a little different ballgame from public or private school teachers. To begin, the classrooms of these schools are very different. According to the American Montessori Society, you won't see desks, nor will a teacher stand at the front of the room delivering a lesson to the whole class. Instead, you'll see children happily working individually or in small groups, at tables or on the floor near small mats that delineate their own space. Specifically designed learning materials are displayed on open shelves, easily accessible to the children. Classrooms also include low sinks accessible to the children, child-sized furniture, cozy spaces for quiet reading, reachable shelves with work available for free choice, and child-sized kitchen utensils so that the students can eat, prepare, and clean up their snack on their own. This type of learning environment is very different from public or private schools, but it works for this type of schooling. My classroom will have a sensory corner, along with tons of reading shelves and comfortable tables and chairs scattered around the room. Another cool thing about these classrooms is that they have a kitchen inside. Cooking is included in the curriculum, even for young children, which is so awesome. Everything in my classroom will be out in the open for all of my students so they can grab whatever educational materials they need right away. To begin, the achievement gap is the persistent disparity in academic achievement between minority and disadvantaged students and their white counterparts. This gap is prevalent in all schools and communities, and if I'm going to be a teacher, I am probably going to run across it at some point. I also have a greater percentage of running across it as well because I will probably be teaching in a Montessori school around or near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as I live right outside of the city. The reason why this is so is because Milwaukee has a huge percentage of minorities living in the city, especially with the Milwaukee public schools. But what about the Brown versus Board of Education? Shouldn't that have fixed this gap? According to Marian Edelman of the HuffPost, 60 years after that historic court decision, the Department of Education has made it clear that poor children and children of color are still routinely denied access to their fair share of strong teachers, decent schools, and current textbooks. Another big example of the achievement gap comes from the National Center for Education Statistics, which shows that there is a pretty big gap between Hispanic students and white students from 1990 to 2009. I have a feeling that there are some educators out there who think that the Brown versus the Board of Education eradicated the achievement gap, so there is no way that it exists. If we, as educators, make it a point to talk about it with each other, I really think that we will be able to solve, or at least partially solve, the problems behind the achievement gap. My other goal revolves around cultural bias. I will do my best to be honest with myself and educate myself about all cultures I come across. Just because I may not understand something or someone's point of view right away, the best thing that I can do is to push all judgments aside to really get to know the new point of view. This is the only way we can eradicate cultural bias. The idea of culture being a disability comes from the idea that when you take one person from one culture and deposit them in a group of people from a different culture, they will be at a disadvantage. Being an educator of students with tons of different backgrounds will put me in this situation, as we are not all knowledgeable about other cultures and each other, especially being in a classroom with young students. We need to be aware that culturally, not everyone will be coming from the same background, and to treat it as teaching moments. When it comes to cultural conflict, we must interpret it in a respectful way. Two people from different backgrounds might not agree upon things, but as educators, we have to make sure both students understand the other's point of view. In my classroom, I will teach students to respect each other's values and opinions as long as no one is getting hurt. Also, I will try to resolve conflict quickly before it turns into bullying or something else that is harder to be stopped. Pop culture is a huge part of many cultures, so I will try to include such in my lessons. By looking at pop culture through the lens of education, we can take a step back and look at the simplification of these different events and ideas. I will use pop culture in my classroom to show my students the simplification of things in the world. For example, when I'm talking about certain subjects or lessons, such as lessons about being true to yourself, I will probably play different videos of Disney movies because they present ideas to the children that they will understand. As far as classroom rituals go, research shows that routines support healthy social emotional development in early childhood. In particular, children with regular routines at home have self-regulation skills, which are the building blocks of good mental health. When children learn to regulate feelings and behaviors, it means that they are able to identify their feelings and have skills to manage those feelings so that they don't feel overwhelmed. So, having a routine in the classroom is very important. The main ritual I will have in my classroom will be a morning meeting every morning. Here, I will go over what the day will look like, and then offer students to share either something like show and tell, something that they read that was interesting, or just a funny, appropriate story from the day before. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed my future vision statement as a Montessori teacher. Hi, my name is Sydney, and this is my vision